The chances of a horror movie winning an Oscar, or even getting a nomination, are almost zero no matter how good it is. But horror is a unique art form. Here are 10 horror films that truly deserve the award. Often hailed as one of the greatest and most influential horror films of all time, Psycho received exactly 0 Oscars. Alfred Hitchcock's masterpiece did earn nominations for Best Director, Best Supporting Actress, Best Art Direction, and Best Cinematography, so it seemed to have a real shot at winning. However, it was ultimately overshadowed by other major hits of the year, including Billy Wilder's The Apartment, Richard Brooks's Elmer Gantry, and Jack Cardiff's Sons and Lovers. Even Bernard Herrmann's now legendary Psycho score didn't get a nomination, let alone a win. The Oscar for Best Original Score went to one of its competitors.
This is no dream. This is really happening.
Roman Polanski's chilling dive into the psychological horrors of motherhood earned a nomination for his screenplay, while Ruth Gordon took home Best Supporting Actress for her quirky role as the nosy, satanic neighbor. Mia Farrow, who portrayed the titular character, surely deserved a Best Actress nomination. Yet the film itself deserved a top nod for its slow-burn tension, where the true horror comes not from the outside world, but from the evil that may lie just next door, or even within. Brian De Palma's Carrie was the first of many adaptations of Stephen King's novels, marking the start of the King era in horror. De Palma's effort was a huge success. Sissy Spacek, a promising young actress at the time, played the role of Carrie, while the iconic Piper Laurie portrayed her mother, Margaret White. Both were rightfully nominated for Oscars, Spacek for Best Actress and Laurie for Best Supporting Actress. However, they faced tough competition, and in the end, Faye Dunaway and Beatrice Straight won Oscars for their roles in Sidney Lumet Network.
Wait a minute, there's movement. Seems to have life. Organic life.
One interesting fact about Ridley Scott's Alien, the first film in the franchise, is that the character of Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver, was originally written as a male role. It's hard to imagine Alien without Sigourney Weaver today, but the film could have turned out very differently if the producers hadn't taken an unexpected and unconventional approach for the time, casting a woman in the key role to make the film stand out from its competitors. Weaver, of course, nailed the part and returned to it 4 more times. This groundbreaking decision might have earned the film some recognition from the Academy, but it didn't. On the other hand, the Academy did honor the incredible work of Hans Giger and the entire visual effects team with an Oscar. So while Alien may not have been fully appreciated in some areas, it certainly wasn't ignored. The Shining had a mixed reception upon release, not to mention the feud between Kubrick and Stephen King, and even earned 2 Razzie nominations. Yet despite this rocky start, the film has cemented its place in pop culture and the public consciousness, almost entirely separate from the novel it's based on. On the surface, this doesn't sound like the typical Oscar contender. However, if there were an Oscar for audience recognition, it would undoubtedly go to Jack Nicholson. His performance created one of the most terrifying, eccentric, and iconic characters, not just in horror, but in cinema as a whole. 1982 was an exceptionally successful year for Steven Spielberg. His film E.T. the Extraterrestrial broke records set by Star Wars in terms of popularity, and in addition to the love from audiences, it won 4 Oscars. Another hit from Spielberg that year was the horror film Poltergeist. Spielberg came up with the idea and wrote the script, while he brought Tobe Hooper on board as director. The Oscar nominations quickly followed. Poltergeist was nominated for awards in visual effects, sound editing, and Best Original Score. Ironically, Poltergeist found itself competing against Spielberg's own creation, E.T., which ended up winning all the awards. While Spielberg himself probably wasn't too upset about this battle with himself, horror fans still believe the Oscars between Poltergeist and E.T. could have been distributed more fairly.
Seems like they were spending a lot of their time in a little place northeast of their camp, about 5 or 6 miles.
What's that?
It looks like something buried under the ice.
John Carpenter's The Thing was a landmark in horror, if only for its groundbreaking practical effects. Even today, it's just as terrifying and visually stunning as it was in the early 80s. Every creature effect was crafted entirely by hand, without a single CGI shot, by Rob Bottin, who pushed himself so hard that he ended up hospitalized from exhaustion. The Academy had introduced the Best Makeup category just a year before the film's release, and Best Visual Effects had been an Oscar staple since the award's inception. The Thing seemed like a sure contender in both, and yet, shockingly, it received no nominations. The film's biggest obstacle? At the time, critics dismissed it as just another horror movie from a genre they didn't take seriously. While it's now considered a cult classic, back then, it simply wasn't given the recognition it deserved. Videodrome combines cyber horror, body horror, and global paranoia into a truly original film. It deserved nominations for Best Special Effects, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Leading Actor, possibly even Best Director. Of David Cronenberg's body horror classics, Videodrome is perhaps the most grotesque and insane. The film explores 1980s fears of uncensored TV broadcasts and tapes. As the protagonist's mind unravels, his body transforms into a living VCR, controlled by tapes and ready to kill on command. Its techno-surrealism made it visually striking and a major influence on future filmmakers. Only David Cronenberg's signature body horror could transform a grotesquely deformed scientist-turned-fly into a surprisingly sympathetic character, and Jeff Goldblum's performance certainly helped. While science gone wrong films are common, this remake stands out as both a classic monster flick and a vital AIDS allegory. That Cronenberg pulled it off is nothing short of a miracle, making the film more than deserving of some Best Picture recognition. While zombie films have become a staple in modern horror, it's easy to forget how groundbreaking 28 Days Later was when it hit in 2002. Danny Boyle's bleak and brilliant take on the genre redefined zombies for the 21st century, emphasizing speed, aggression, and a gritty, realistic environment. The film's focus on character development, rather than just gore, made the infected human, but stripped of humanity, deeply terrifying. With themes of class and prejudice woven into the story, 28 Days Later set the stage for the zombie renaissance we know today and introduced the world to Cillian Murphy.